Why do people have such a hard time asking for help? Because they feel weak, or because they feel weak, question mark. Why do you think people have such a hard time asking for help?
Pride.
Pride?
Admitting that they can't do it alone.
Self-sufficiency?
They can't do it alone, or that they got themselves in the position in the first place.
They what?
That you got yourself in the position in the first place, maybe to need it.
Okay.
Abby, you want me to go upstairs?
Number one, we have lost a sense of community.
I don't mind.
You going upstairs?
Used to, when I was young, there would be a couple hog butchering days a year, early in the fall and late in the summer, or late in the winter. And 4 or 5 farmers would bring a hog, and everybody would share in the hog in the butcher. And then there would be one time a year that we'd butcher 1 or 2 beefs, and everybody would get together, kill the beef, hang the beef, and everybody had a certain job they did. Some were grinding, some were slicing meat, and then the meat would be split up. I don't know what the finances were. I was a little kid and I don't remember that. If somebody needed a barn, everybody showed up, they built a barn. And everybody relied on each other. Now, we've been taught to be proud, we've been taught to be self-sufficient, we've been taught to stand on our own, and I don't think it's a better life. I don't think it's a better world. The second thing is, a lot of times people don't want to ask for help, is they don't want to be holding to anybody else. They're afraid somebody will come along and ask for a return on the favor. I told you the story about picking up leaves when I was on my mail route, and I wanted these leaves and these grass cuttings because there was not a weed in these rich people's yards at all. And so I asked if I could pick them up, and filled up my truck at night, and the butler came out and handed me a $50 bill. And I said, no, you're doing me a favor, I want these leaves. And he said, take the money. These rich people don't want to feel like you might come back and ask for a return on the favor. Said they'd rather pay you than owe you something. So I took the $50 bill and all the grass clippings, and I went back often and got leaves, and every single time the same thing happened. They came out and stuffed money in my pocket because they didn't want to owe me anything. And when we do that, we end up leading very lonely lives, and it takes a lot of the fun out of the fellowship, because fellowship's not there anymore. That's not the way it was supposed to be. Any comments?
I have comments.
Go ahead. You go first. Mine's
As
political.
being like a single female, I've always felt like, okay, say the weed eater quits or the lawnmower quits, or, you know, stuff that I don't necessarily know how to do. I've always felt like it would inconvenience someone else or intrude on their lives. I know other people are busy. It's like you don't really, I hate to call my dad up every day and say, hey dad, can you do this? Or hey so-and-so, can you do this? You know, so I've tried to start learning things on my own, how to do them, but that's kind of how my thing was. It wasn't necessarily pride or anything. It was just I didn't want to, you know, put other people out when they were trying to live their lives, you know, so.
But your need is my blessing. I respond to that if I give you some of my time, or if I give you some of my talent, or if I share the gift that God gave me with you, then He blesses me, shaken down, pressed together, overflowing, greater than that which I am able to contain. So if you don't ask, and if you don't want to bother me, you're stealing my blessing. Amen?
That's a good
So quit stealing my blessing.
I'll be calling you like every 5 minutes, Bill.
Yeah, my lawnmower's broke.
They're going to get more calls this week.
toilet.
I got the south side fence
Minor
that needs
blessing.
overhauled.
Jason, our toilet's clogged.
That is not my blessing.
That's fine, I'll die happy. Matt.
The government has made it to where people don't have to really admit that they need help. If the government is going to give you a check for food, housing, wood vouchers, you don't have to go to church and have a sense of community. You can privately fill out a form and start receiving a check. And I've always, what did people do before you could get a check to sustain your life? And it used to be you had to have a community, family, friend. Nobody starved. I can't say nobody. It wasn't worldwide or nationwide starvation before you could get a government check. And because people helped people. And they've made it to where now you really don't have to, unless you're, and even at the grocery store now, it used to be a great big, you've seen people at the food stands, a great big piece of paper, and you knew that it was a food. Now it's a little bitty card, and people do it. And
It's a little charge card.
because they didn't want.
It's just
them
like
to
a
use
debit card, really.
Right.
You have no idea that it's.
Right. I'll get off the
It takes a shame out
box.
of it. Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, that's a good point. The government has made it so that we don't need each other. All we need is the government. That's a scary thought.
Oh, yeah.
Can I say one more thing?
Uh-oh.
No.
Just to Jennifer, like you were saying, you don't want to call your dad. Okay, think about if Trey needs something and he calls you, how you're not gonna feel inconvenienced. You're gonna be like,
Yeah.
okay, so that's with your dad. But with us, we're your brothers and sisters, and we're gonna feel the same way. If you call one of us, we're gonna be there. If I called you, I know you would be there.
Yeah.
Now, we might not expect breakfast or something,
Yeah.
but we'll be there.
Not the
Give me an
toilet.
oatmeal pie.
Anything but the
Sarge,
toilet.
you know.
You plug it up, you dig it out.
Jason does toilets.
And if there's food involved, the whole class will be there.
Yeah, exactly.
All righty. Proverbs 15, verse 14. Any other comments on self-sufficiency? It was never meant to be. Never. That's why God ordained churches.
One thing's for sure, it always feels good to help somebody that needs it, but it sure don't feel none too good when you gotta be the one doing the asking. That's the big drawback. That's the big one.
So the Bible says, you have not because you ask not. That's what Paul says. You have not because you ask not.
I think that's one of the, it's not just a sense of community, I mean, we've kicked this around, I don't know how many times in Bible study, you know, stubborn male pride, and, you know, you gotta do it on your own. But, you know, Dad burned. I mean, nobody likes being in that spot, but where it's really difficult, especially for a man, is if you've already got that with all your friends and people that you know, it's even harder to humble yourself and ask help from God.
Yeah.
You know, and it's, you know, I know me and Josh kicked that around, I don't know how many times. And, you know.
I think the bottom root problem is prosperity. The richer we get, the more independent we get, even among the families. I remember when I was a kid, if you wanted to watch television, you had to watch it with 6 other people. Now there's a TV in every room, and everybody's watching a different program. And what happened to the family? But now we're rich, and we can have 6 TVs. And so now we got 6 individuals, and we don't have a family anymore.
You've got cell phones, we've got 6 individuals with cell phones.
Here we go.
Well, that's a cell phone. cell
you all.
phones
Let's
last
do
week.
Okay, well, let's do iPods.
We should have taped it. It was hilarious.
Which, the challenge last week of shutting off your cell phone for a day, I couldn't do it. I tried doing it Monday, and I thought, well, what if John calls me at work, or what if the doctor calls me, or what if...
But
I
leave a
thought,
message.
And then I said, well, I'll do it Wednesday, and then I thought, Wednesday something came up, I had to turn my phone on. And
Well, the
Thursday,
devil
Friday-
sure fooled you, didn't he?
and then I know, and then today I thought, I'll just shut it off today. So I'm not gonna get on Facebook or anything for the whole day. I have my phone on in case, like, my mom calls me or something.
Okay, you can't do it.
I'll tell you what.
Don't forget my name. I gotta have a phone.
I put my faith in God last week. I turned my cell phone on twice for about a half an hour each time. So,
Okay, golly. I'll go good y'all for now.
15:14.
The heart of him who has understanding seeks knowledge, but the mouth of fools feeds on foolishness.
Okay. Define discerning.
What? I'm sorry, what?
Define discerning. A discerning heart seeks knowledge, but the mouth of the fool feeds on folly. Define discerning.
Understanding.
How many times do you read a verse like that? You don't know what the word means, but you just go on to the next verse?
All the time.
All the time. Yeah, all the time. Well, not here. Define discerning.
Searching.
Hmm?
Searching.
Searching?
Searching for knowledge.
See,
Okay, searching for a certain kind of knowledge.
my Bible says the heart of him who has understanding seeks knowledge, but the mouth of fools feeds out foolishness.
Understanding and discerning go hand in hand. When you're discerning something, you're trying to see if it's black or white, right or wrong, whether it's a good thing to do or a bad thing to do. You evaluate it and you try to understand it, and you try to understand it like a chess player. If I allow this to happen in my life, what are going to be the consequences? How am I going to end up if I let this thing start taking control of me, my family, my finances, my life, whatever it is? So discerning is an evaluation process to consider the consequences, good or bad. Okay? So a discerning person seeks knowledge so that he can make the right decision, so that he can get the information he needs to make that decision. Right now everybody's rushing to the stock market to get all their money into the stock market because it's setting record highs. What do you think is going to happen in a couple months? That bubble's going to pop. You're going to have a 900-point drop, and all those people that jumped in 700 points ahead are going to lose 700 points from where they started. And then they're going to have to sit there and crawl back up to the top again. I always wait for the 900-point drop, and then I throw in a few bucks. But under no circumstances does the stock market my future, because it's just a legal gambling game. But I got to that knowledge by watching over the years. I mean, gold skyrockets and people rush out and buy gold, and the next thing you know, it's half the value it was 6 months ago. Then you're sitting there with this gold, and you lost half your money, and you got to hold on to it for 20 years so it gets back up to the price that you bought it for. And in all that time, you didn't get a penny's interest out of the deal. And if you look at those things and get that information, you suddenly see, well, that's up and down and up and down and up and down. I need something that's a little more level and that'll grow, or something that's got a guaranteed. I'm better off at 4.5% guaranteed for 8 years than hoping the stock market will be right when the end of the 8 years comes around. Okay? Now there's certain things in the stock market that are good investments. But most people were in there for the quick fix and grab their money and run, and that's not such a good thing. 15.
All the days of the afflicted are evil, but he that is of a merry heart has a continual feast.
Okay, oppressed. What does it mean to be oppressed?
Afflicted.
I'm sorry?
Afflicted.
Can be afflicted. Yes, it can be a disease. Could be slavery. Could be almost anything that controls you and holds you down. You could let anything oppress you if you allow it to have control of your life. But if you control it, you're free. You're free to walk away from it. You're free to trade it in for something else. You're free to abandon it and go a different direction. But if it controls you, then you are oppressed. You are enslaved to it. Okay? Name some things that control people's lives today. You don't need to tell us yours, but tell us what Don's is.
A kid in college, that's what controls my life.
What controls your life? What controls people's lives today?
The internet. The internet.
That's a good one.
The internet?
Finances. Finances.
Money.
Finances, money?
Alcohol and drugs. Alcohol and drugs.
Alcohol, drugs?
Pretty much anything evil.
He said not to tell him yours.
Evil.
You're going home together.
Did it just get colder down here?
You need somebody to sit in the middle of the front seat.
Couples therapy.
Okay? Worry.
Yeah, that's
A lot of
mine.
people are totally consumed by worry. When my mother was in a nursing home down here, the first thing I told them was, don't let her watch the Weather Channel. They said, why not? It looked like, what's wrong with the Weather Channel? I said, because if they have a tornado in Oklahoma, she's going to want to go to the basement. And a couple weeks later, the nurse looked at me and said, I wish we'd have listened to you. Because it was in the spring and the tornadoes were everywhere out in Kansas and wherever. And I mean, she was constantly hitting her button and wanting to go to the basement. Where do you go around here for a tornado? They had a tornado. Yeah, that was in Kansas. Sun shining. Worried to death about a tornado.
Mackenzie's been sleeping with the radio on. She woke us up one night and said, Mom, Dad! We thought something was wrong. What, Kenzie, what? Hey! We were like, what? Little Caesars! Did you know if you go to Little Caesars, you can give them $5 and get a hot and ready pizza right now, let's go! And we said, Kenzie, we were like, it's like 11 o'clock at night. She goes, I got $10, we can get 2! And then she walked in there and said, Mom, and we're like, yes, mentions, what's the weather supposed to be like today? Is it supposed to rain? And she goes, Mom, it's supposed to be 65 today, clear all day, possibly showers about 5 o'clock. And we're like, what is wrong with you? It's that radio.
Okay, I'll call her.
I'd rather have him listen to the radio than on the computer.
Okay. All the days of the oppressed are wretched. People who allow these things to consume them have to live with them. We can't allow worry to take us over and expect to get a good night's sleep and expect to have any peace whatsoever. We are expected to be in charge of ourselves. And anything that begins to control your life, like coffee.
Coffee doesn't control my life.
Tell that to the empty cup. Tell that to
Give it
the
up for 2 days.
I have to have him stay in control.
Hey, tell that to the empty coffee pot over there.
But I
You mean it's empty?
absolutely,
No,
I have never liked coffee, I've never drank coffee, but my preferred juice in the morning is Mountain Dew. And there's more caffeine in a Mountain Dew than there is in 3 cups of coffee. And at one time, it was a bad week and we couldn't buy pop because we didn't have enough money. And so we didn't buy Pepsis and Mountain Dews. I had a headache for 3 days. I was jittery. I would get up and just blindly walk to the refrigerator, open the door, and stare in there, knowing there were no Pepsis or Mountain Dews. And suddenly I realized I am being totally consumed and controlled by a yellow bottle of syrup. And I was. It was awful. And I suddenly realized that something owned me, and I didn't like that feeling. That was not a good feeling. And so now I only drink 3 a day. No. Okay, 16.
Better a little with the fear of the Lord than greater wealth with turmoil.
Okay, think of the wealthiest person you know. How happy are they?
Are you happy?
He seems pretty happy.
It depends on what kind of wealth you're talking about. If you're talking about spiritual wealth, then the person is going to be happy.
I'm talking about material wealth.
Yeah.
Now, spiritual wealth is a whole different ballgame. Okay, but I'm talking about material wealth. How happy are you? I used to go to a church where everybody wore $500 3-piece suits, and I'm telling you, I would rather spend a half an hour down here laughing with you than 10 minutes in that church with all the tension. I never heard a laugh or saw a smile in that church.
How deafening was it when they went down to collect the offering in that church and all those wallets?
Some of you probably had to get the WD-40 out, dry bar.
To be absolutely truthful with you, I had one winter I had to loan them some money to pay the gas bill because they got a disconnect notice.
Because all them guys was blowing their offering money on those suits.
I had to do that. And I didn't own a 3-piece suit. Better a little fear of the Lord than a great wealth with turmoil. Why did Jesus say it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get to heaven? Was he saying a rich man can't be saved? Is that what he was saying?
Just to come down to the level of everyone else and not be up there, you know, riding on the camel's back because you never be able to get through it.
Okay. Anyone else?
The rich man's eyes aren't as clear because of all of the riches.
Say that again.
The rich man's eyes are not clear because his heart's not clear because all he can see is the money and the riches and what he has and what he doesn't want anybody else to have.
Okay. All right.
And I don't know what the camel has anything to do with it, but maybe he wants to buy a
When was the
camel.
last time you tried to thread a camel?
Okay.
It's tricky.
Well, you can't see to thread a camel if you can't see clearly enough.
No kidding.
It wasn't the eye of the It was a real door, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a
the eye
hole.
of the needle. The eye of the
door.
needle was a small entrance in the wall of Jerusalem, where they would only let people in at night. or when they were under siege or there was danger out there, they wouldn't open the big gates, they would keep them barred.
And the camel had to get down on his knees and get under it.
So if the people came in at night or late in the evening, the camel had to get down on its knees and it had to kind of crawl through that gate in order to get itself and its master into the city and be safe behind the walls. So you're exactly right.
So it's possible, it's just not.
So it's not talking about a threaded needle, okay? He wasn't saying that it's impossible for a rich man to go to heaven. He's saying that it's almost impossible for that rich man to allow God to be his master, because too often that money becomes our God. I like to look at it this way: the poorer I am, the less I have to worry about.
Seems like sometimes you look, the poor people are a lot, the poor people are happier than people
Oh,
that
yeah.
have all kinds of stuff.
I have never known anybody to kill himself because he was poor. But I've known a whole bunch of rich people that jumped off buildings. How is that the case? I remember on October 19th back in 98 or 99, the stock market dropped 600 points on my birthday on October 19th. And that day, 4 or 5 suicides, millionaires, went to the top of their buildings that they owned and jumped off. I was so affected by it financially that I had to jump off the porch. I didn't lose anything in the deal. And the sad thing was, now I'm not trying to minimize the tragedy of those people's deaths, but the sad thing was, a week later, the stock market was back up to where it was before, and they had all died for nothing. But because what they had, what gave them security, what gave them peace, what they had spent their whole lives working for, suddenly disappeared in a day, they did not have anything to live for a week to see if it might come back. As far as they was concerned, everything they had ever worked for was gone, and there was nothing to live for. That's the danger of money. Our God will always be consistent. He will always be there, and He'll always do the right thing in regard to us. The stock market, not so much. We gotta go upstairs.